daughter about do what you want to do to make you happy.
How can we use this fitness, these skill sets, these specific tools we have to now give back to the community?
Right. But you know what? If I can impact one female, so I think that we win. Because I think once you define your why, you'll understand your purpose and you'll understand where you're going.
Kelly Meredith, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're in similar circles. We have a lot of friends who've been in consumer brand game and business owners. And even just from the short time, the couple discussions that we've had, you don't sound like a normal founder by any stretch of the imagination, especially the language you use regarding, it's not a mission statement with profit. It's actually about service and impact. Tell us a little bit about your product and what you're trying to accomplish with the Dottir mission.
Yeah, I think I appreciate you saying that. And I think even go back to a previous business, I built it off people, and I think people built the business. And I always felt like if I hired good people, good things would happen. And so going into this product with Dottir, we've done the same thing. So I think if we built the product with the best ingredients possible, with the best people that I can surround myself with, we're going to have something that's going to be long, sustaining, and amazing for the consumers. So that's what we've done with Dottir. Is we not only did we try to build a brand that's going to be recognizable, but we were trying to build a community around that, and then everything else will take care of itself.
Sure. So give me a little backstory though, because Dottir wasn't your first business.
It was not.
Right.
No.
So take us back a little bit. Give us a little bit of a history, origin story.
Yeah.
And then where the first even premonition of Dottir kind of appeared.
Yeah. So we'll go back to, when I came out of college, I got into coaching. So my previous background was into coaching, coached at the college level, high school level, coached Arena League football, spent time doing that for several years, and then was going to take a break and went into work for a private business, for a family-owned business. Started a business within that business that dealt with forklifts, and it was in fleet management. Built a fleet management company that dealt with forklifts, mainly dealing with Fortune 50 companies, Fortune 100 companies. We grew the business. The family business ended up selling about 3.5 years ago. And during that time, I was kind of searching of what was going to be my next thing. What did I want to do in life? I felt like I had really worked hard, grinded extremely hard, spent a lot of time away from the family, trying to grow this, and felt like sometimes I was very selfish in that approach because I did spend time away from the family traveling. So when the business sold, I felt like it was a time for me to retire. I was, doing some searching from a not only a fitness journey, but from a health journey. Knew that I was overworked, overstressed. Felt like I was going to step away. Read a book called Die with Zero. Don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am.
And one of the things that just resonated with me with Die with Zero was memory dividends. And I think so many times we talk about financial dividends, and it turned that into what can I do to make memory dividends, not only with my family, but for myself. And then also got into what can I do to make fitness dividends, and got away from the financial side and what can we do to do those things. So felt like I was in a situation where I was going to make memory dividends. Led me to searching for many different aspects. Led my wife and I into many different trips, some different journeys that we went on. And one of the trips was to Iceland. And so when I was in Iceland, I discovered this collagen that came from the wild cod that lived in the harshest environment, the coldest environment that was in Iceland. And I thought, man, this is really interesting product. Not knowing anything about a drink, not knowing anything about the beverage industry, but was always attracted to fitness, was always attracted to supplement side, and so left Iceland with this idea, man, it'd be neat to do something with this collagen, but had really no idea. I was really, really content, with life, and was like, whatever. So actually February, a year ago, I came to Denver, actually came to Arsenal Health, met Eric Hinman and his group and the community that's here in Denver, and ended up meeting a lot of incredible founders, a lot that you and I have mutual, contacts with, that are in the CPG space, that are in the consumer space, that are just good people. And then learned that, there's a possibility I could do something with this drink. So that was in February. March, the next month, I was on a trip to Egypt, and I was with Katrin David's daughter, who I was actually with in Iceland the previous June. And her and I were talking about this Icelandic marine collagen. And I mentioned to her, I said, Katrin, what if we could put this collagen into a beverage? And we brought this beverage to the US. Would it be something you're interested in? And she said, I would love to be able to do that. Not only to recognize her heritage, to recognize, her roots, being from Iceland, but to be able to do something that she thought would be extremely fun. And that's where the journey started. So came home from March of 2025 and reached out to a formulator and said, this is kind of our dream. This is what we're looking at and envisioning, and what can we do with this? And so that's really where it started.
Yeah, so we will dig into the Dottir product here, but specifically, so you have this concept, you have this vision of this drink, bringing it to the US. Where does the service as a responsibility, which is one of the things we discussed, and I want you to get into that before we kind of dive into the product side, but where does the service and the impact that we've talked about previously, and then I creeped your Instagram, I looked at the Dottir story. So at what point does the service and the impact roll into this vision?
Yeah, so it's really not about the beverage. This is I'm saying is a vehicle for us to be able to give back. Mm-hmm. So we're using Dottir as a vehicle, one, to build a community, and two, to be able to give back to our resilience fund. So the only way that I was going to do this, the only way that I was going to put the time and effort into building a product is, could I serve other people and bring other people happiness and opportunities in their life. And so we created what was called the Resilience Fund. And the Resilience Fund is our opportunity to be able to give back to women in sports, to be able to empower them through coaching, through training, through mentorships, through community aspects, wherever it may be. We want to give back that way through the Resilience Fund and Dottir.
Nice, very cool. So you've got Katrin involved.
Yeah.
Obviously, the name Dottir, Icelandic heritage. We can go into that in a minute. How does that translate into this product as far as the brand of the story? Katrin, how did Annie get involved?
Okay, so when I talked to Katrin, and I know her relationship with Annie, and one thing is growing up as a CrossFit fan, always respected Katrin and Annie on the competition floor. They always were extremely positive. They always carried themselves very well. And I always looked at them as very strong women, not only on the floor, but also off the floor. So I always just respected them. Growing up with a very strong mother who taught me values, who taught me integrity, women played a big part in my life. And so when we were looking at the brand, and when I had talked to Katrin, I said, hey, talk to Annie, see if she's on board, and let's make this a go. And we also talked about, at that point, we talked about the giving back. And I said, if we're going to do this, I want to be able to give back, because I want you guys to relate your story of where you came from, how you got to be where you were at through people giving to you. And so that's where we came up with the Resilience Fund. So the women's side of the thing was just, there again, respect out of my mother, respect for Annie and Katrin, respect for my wife, respect for my daughter, for the women who have been very powerful for me. And coming from the male coaching side, coaching male athletes, I felt like there's so many opportunities out there for males. And I'm sure for you, coming from a fitness background, you see all sorts of programming for males. You see all sorts of gyms that are really male driven, and it looks like, hey, there's all these males in there. And my wife, who would be intimidated to walk into most gyms, what can we do to give her an opportunity to feel comfortable in an environment? And so that's what that really led to.
Yeah, and as somebody else, very strong mother, I have two older sisters, basically raised by them. And a lot of people, even with my own background, don't realize that the gym that I owned for 7 years, and now even a big part of Arsenal, I think at any given time, 65 to 70% of my gym population was actually females. So I've also been around strong women my whole life. I have a background. I was a baseball coach, so I'm a coach at heart. Was never really a personal trainer. So understand how tying in the culture from Iceland, where from what I know, they're not raised with the same barriers that a lot of women are raised with. It's a tougher culture. They have a lot of women who are in corporate leadership, in government leadership. Are you familiar with like when you talk about Katrin and Annie, I'm sorry. When you talk about their background, what did they share with you from their past that allowed them to thrive and get basically to the top of one of the hardest?
They were never told no. They were never set into a barrier. So you talk about, sometimes I feel like we get put into a box, whatever environment we're in. I think when we talked earlier about the Icelandic Marine College and of the cod being raised in harsh environments in cold weather, so are these women.
Yeah.
And they're very, very harsh weather, very cold environments, and they're grown up and raised to be whatever you want to be. There are no limits to what you can do. And so it's really interesting to listen to Kat's story. When Annie won the CrossFit Games, Katrin's sitting in Iceland and going, hey, if she can do it, so can I. And just very casually, I mean, it's a country of 365,000 people. And Katrin sees Annie win it. She's 4 years younger than Annie. And she says, you know what? She can do it, so can I. And you know what? 3 years later, she won it. And so it's just like they see something and they go get it and they go after it, which I really, really expect and admire. Just the culture of them not having barriers and not having limits, which I think is what we need to bring, to the society here, of giving women opportunity to be whatever you want to be. I tell my daughter and talk to my daughter, a lot about just do what you want to do to make you happy. Don't worry about what society says. Don't worry about what the internet says. You go do what's going to make you happy and you thrive how you want to thrive.
So then in your coaching background, what cultural norms have you even challenged with primarily coaching men that you would want to challenge women in this space to overcome?
I think opportunity. So I think for me, it's maximizing the opportunities that are given to you. One of the things that I try to do when I was coaching is to give everybody a fair opportunity and a fair chance. And to be able to teach to teach people to be able to maximize those opportunities when they're given. I think it's really hard, and I'm sure that you've experienced this in your coaching side also. You can't coach everybody the same, and you can still have the same common discipline, same common beliefs, but the way that it's relayed and the way that you portray it to different people has to be different, just because everybody adapts different ways. Having 3 kids, I can't discipline the 3 kids all the same. Although I tried, it didn't work very well. So I should have been more loving to one, more harsh to another, more in the middle, to another. So I think those are the challenges that we face as coaches, but I think those are the challenges that we face as a society is what can we do to give women the opportunity to succeed at whatever environment it is. And then also, I'd even like to talk about how do we define success? Because I think sometimes we get caught up in saying, man, success is only if we win. I think you've probably had people in the weight room, people in your gym that have success and have never reached the highest potential, but they have given it their all. And they've made a slight improvement, 1% over 1% over 1%, and it adds up. And those are still successful moments that we need to celebrate. Yeah. So I don't think that we can sit there and say that every person has to be a winner. The way that I judge it is what's your effort and what's your output. Yeah. And then also I would probably even add in your attitude. Yeah. So 100%. What's your attitude while you're doing it? What's your output and what's your effort? Because those are the things that we can control. I've mentioned even before, I think sometimes, in competition, we're beat at birth. Sometimes we're just not meant to be great. Like I can't go, Mike's trying to set the world record in the Turkish get up. You know what? There's no way that I'm going to go beat that world record at my age in the Turkish get up because I'm not trained for it. I'm not doing it. Now, it doesn't mean I can't go try it. It doesn't mean that I can't try to go do 125. I'm not going to do 270. But I can still put the effort into it and still define success with my little wins, in those events.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from just exposure. And for the women that I've trained over the course of the last 15 years, it's how you begin to incentivize them to feel comfortable in the gym. And with coaching, obviously there's a coaching IQ, there's an emotional IQ, how you incentivize and what carrot you're dangling for people. And as an example, I love when people walk into the gym that I was associated with, and even Arsenal, like everybody sees us, we have a lot of savages. And I know if somebody, as an example, if I know one of my guys can pull 600 pounds and they're doing reps at 575, that's not very impressive to me. What's impressive, the message is, how good do you want to be? I don't care how good you are today. It's how good do you want to be. I get more stoked when somebody walks into the gym for the first time and they're like, hey, I don't have any experience in this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I have this will to get better. Like, okay, you just opened yourself up to access to all of my resources. I am stoked to get people moving. I have a group of women who go to a Pilates studio. They do the glute thing and all of that. But if I have a program where we get women in, and it's like, we're going to educate on lower body strength and this, that, and the other. But they think they're doing it for aesthetic reasons. But if we can begin to introduce people to this environment to where it's not intimidating, it's just fluency. If we can get you fluent under a barbell, if we can get you comfortable in the gym, and we can expose you to all of these different things, there's no telling what you'll end up falling in love with, to the line that you'll follow that and then ultimately get really comfortable in there.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a big part about exposure and how coaches are incentivizing women in the gym that's historically masculine dominated.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's defining their why. Mm-hmm. You know, what's your why and what's your purpose?
Why
are you here,
right,
and what are you looking to get out of this? Yep. And so sometimes I think the internet tells us we should be one way, but reality is going to tell us something different. Yep. The one thing that I love about Arsenal, I love about coming into this gym is community. Mm-hmm. And it is like literally, it is such a tight-knit community that everybody's so welcoming. And even when people walk in that they don't recognize, people come up there and introduce themselves. And so it's not an intimidating environment. Mm-hmm. It's more of the community where you succeed when the community succeeds.
100%.
You know, or if somebody is pulling something that they never pulled, everybody's going to succeed when that person wins. And that, I think that to me is very, very beneficial and gives you that environment that you can thrive in to have that.
Yeah. So how are you going to be leveraging Dottir? You talked about the Resilience Fund. Obviously, you can discuss a little bit about the partnership with Arsenal.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to be working together. Go into detail a little bit about that and what the level of impact you're wishing Dottir will have.
Yeah. So what we want to do, we were partnering with nonprofit organizations that will support women in sport. We will select 2 of the nonprofit organizations. We will work closely with them that align with our values and align with what we want to get out of it, to be able to donate, to be able to give back to their nonprofit causes. Things that we are currently doing right now is we're working with gyms, giving out memberships to gyms, giving out memberships to individuals, whether it's yearly memberships for online training. And the thing that we're doing here at Arsenal, which I'm so excited for, is we're giving away 2 6-month memberships for personal coaching to give 2 women an opportunity to be able to succeed where financially they might not be able to. And it relieves that burden from the financial side. And so if you're saying, hey, my barrier is finances, you know what, let us pick that up. Mm-hmm. Let us take care of that.
Awesome.
And let's remove that barrier, because then let's go see where you can go with it without that barrier being there. So we will be partnering with Arsenal, starting on that with 2 women. Another thing that we're looking that we'll do is with the Keala Foundation, and I think that you spent time doing some trail runs out in Hawaii,
yep.
And you probably can even mention a little bit about your experience with the trail run.
Mm-hmm. My experience.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have an affinity for being out, like actually using your fitness for something. We spend 10, 15, 20 years in the gym, and all we have are gym numbers. And, going back to what you said about the memories, like the only things I own are my memories and my experiences. Mm-hmm. That's the only things. Everything else, I'm 8 minutes from being homeless and have taken away from me, right? But those are the 2 things that I'll have. And so my big push is to get people the gym is a tool to develop the skills, develop the discipline, develop the character, and then you actually have to go out and bring back evidence that this is working.
Yes.
And so a big part of my push the last several years has been getting people, whether it's the Ultimate Hawaiian Trail Run, Keala Foundation is phenomenal. They are working with at-risk and underserved youth on the island of Kauai, and I think they're expanding into the other islands. I'm working with the 501 Piper's Angels, who does advocacy and financial support for families with loved ones suffering from cystic fibrosis. So it's how can we use this, my message is how can we use this fitness, these skill sets, these specific tools we have to now give back to the community,
right?
And do something with purpose. And I've learned more in my 4 to 5 years of expressing my fitness outside as I have in the 2 decades I've spent inside the gym. And especially with me with a lot of the ultra endurance stuff is like, you don't quite learn who you are at mile 5. Like, go a little longer than that. See where you're at like a couple hours into it. Now, the Ultimate Hawaiian Trail Run's a little shorter, but I think the outdoors is really where you be getting back into nature is where it's the most fun. It's like the reason I train is to be able to go have these experiences. And so to get people out like to Ultimate Hawaiian Trail Run on what is one of the most beautiful sections of planet. Like
sure.
It's in protected, beautiful rainforest in the center of Kauai, one of the rainiest places on earth. And to go out there, and again, you feel like a savage when I've done the race several times. We feel like a savage out there running, and you have a little 8-year-old. You know, you have your Go Ruck shoes on and your 4-inch shorts, and you're you're ready to crush it, and you're dying. And then here's some 8-year-old local kid barefoot that's just flying past you, and you're like, oh shit!
Yeah.
I'm getting my
and
teeth
you know what?
kicked in.
You probably had a good night's rest before. You
Oh
probably
yeah.
had a good breakfast.
For sure.
You know, and those are the things that we don't realize, and that's what excites me about the Keala Foundation. Is so what we want to do at Dottir is that we're going to partner with them, and we're going to come up with our own 24-hour race, and we're going to do it in Kauai. We're going to do it in the same area where the Hawaiian Trail Run is, and we're going to do a 4-man race for a 24-hour adventure. We're going to invite kids to come out and participate. They can run with the runners. And they could be with that, and we're going to do a fundraiser and to raise money for their foundation to be able to give back to that community.
That's what other types? I didn't want to cut you off, but what other types of communities are you looking for to align with?
I think that's a good question. I mean, we do have some target some target communities that we're looking for. It's really just anywhere that we can fit a need and a service. Sure. I mean, if we can give back to whatever community it is, that's what we want to do. It could be inner city. It could be, mothers in need. It could be, abused, women. It could, whatever it may be that we can give back. We're looking for those opportunities. So we're not pigeonholing a certain area and say this is where we're going to focus. We want to be able to expand and focus in many different areas. I will say though, we want to make an impact. And that's one of the things is that we're so big with the Keala Foundation. I think we can make a direct impact really, really big and make a huge difference. I don't want to do 1% here, 1% there, 1% there, and people say, well, we're really your purpose.
Right.
But you know what? If I can impact one female over a 6-month period, or 2 females over a 6-month period, and change a life, and change a mother, and change an opportunity for somebody to better themselves, and I think that we win.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah. So go into a little bit about the product itself.
Okay.
So beyond the marine collagen, I know just from what research I've been doing, you guys put a lot of thought into this product. A lot of thought.
Yeah.
So here's your opportunity. I mean, obviously, I have a refrigerator full of these. I'm really stoked you have the caffeine-free one coming out because I had one at about 5:30 p.m. the other night, and I'm not as accustomed to the green tea, and green tea hits a little different than coffee in a good way.
Yeah.
Just maybe not as good at 6 p.m. Go into a little bit about the ingredients, the formulation, the testing, who you guys got on board, whose product tested this, beta tested it, Yeah. Tell us about the product.
So we talk about fitness. We talk about being intentional with purpose. This drink was made intentional with purpose. It is, everything in it has a reason. And so we'll go from the Icelandic marine collagen. There's 7 grams of marine collagen in this. One of the things that we learned, and my formulator has been tremendous to help me, and it was very fortunate. So when we decided to come up with a drink, I said, here's the marine collagen. You build a vitamin stack that's going to be the best vitamin stack to go with marine collagen. I didn't know that in order for your body to absorb collagen, you need to have glycine. So we added glycine to it. And so then added vitamin C for the same thing, for the absorption of collagen, so you could have vitamin C. We added all methylated vitamin Bs. So we have methylated vitamin Bs in it. We have sea salt in it also for rehydration. So what we've done is taken not only the purest, cleanest collagen that's out there, we've also added the best vitamin supplement stack that we can to it. And then we added green tea extract for our caffeine source. So it's 105 milligrams of green tea extract. I think the purity level of the green tea is like 99.1%. So the one thing that my formulator really loved is when I told her to make this, and she said, "What's our budget?" And I said, "Budget's not a question."
Nice.
I said, "Quality is what we're looking for. So you make this the best drink possible without worrying about what the cost of the ingredients are. We'll figure all that out on the back end, because there again, we're building quality, we're building community, and we're building something that's resilient." And so that's kind of what led to the vitamin stack.
Yeah, so obviously collagen protein, collagen peptides have been in the scene for probably about a decade now.
Yeah.
For anybody that's not familiar or that's confused, because there's a lot of signal and noise.
Yeah.
Right? There's signal as far as like this is what the data shows, and then there's noise over basically all the other bullshit associated with it. So go into what you know about the science of the marine collagen benefits.
Yeah. So the type 1 collagen, your benefits are for your skin, hair, nails, ligaments, and joints. And so when you look at that, for me, I have noticed a tremendous difference in my joints. My hair on my head's not growing back like I want to, but I can tell you I'm having to cut my nails a whole lot more. But just from as much wear and tear as I put on my body, I have felt tremendous from the joint perspective, from just the ligaments and tendons, and just felt really, really good with that. And so that's the purpose of type 1 collagen. So a lot of what we see in the U.S. market is bovine collagen, and so this being marine collagen is a little bit different. And it, there again, it's being the strongest strand of type 1 collagen that you can find. Okay. So that's the purpose that it serves. So we look at we can play the skin, we can play the beauty line of it, we can play the hair and the nails, but also the ligaments and the tendons.
Okay, you're talking about beating up your body. Obviously, you're a pretty jacked, pretty tan individual, right? And I know when I see one, what is your athletic background like that led you to coaching? And obviously you said the supplements has been helping you. When were you playing with collagen before you started this product?
Yeah, I was taking collagen on a daily basis, and I always felt like there was a need for collagen, but it was bovine collagen. And had always used that into my diet. Is really my trip to Iceland that I really realized what marine collagen was. And the one thing that we have, when you hear marine collagen, you hear a fish. Right. And so then you're talking about an odor, you're talking about a smell, and then you're talking about putting it into a beverage. That's tough. So that was, you had asked a question earlier and I didn't really answer about like when we were putting the vitamin stack together and putting the ingredients together. I'll use the word simple. I think it was simple for the formulator to say, hey, this is what we're going to put into it. The difficult part is how do we remove the smell and how do we remove the odor from any of the marine collagen base? Yeah,
I did a lot of the beef. I'm a huge fan of beef protein, especially now that they've taken some of the leftover iron taste out of it, even though I've consuming brands and supplements and shakes for 20 years, like taste is pretty...
Yeah, you just
it's pretty down the road, right? But I'm not the average consumer. I put some unspeakable shit down my throat in the name of fitness. But so you guys were obviously with this product, you were able to break that fish smell. What goes into that? Like, how did you guys isolate this? What's the process?
It was a very intense process because when we went to formulate the drink, and I'll make this a short story because when we went to formulate the drink, we were on about the 5th or 6th round where we thought we had perfected it. And there again, we're doing it in a lab. We're doing it with a soda stream. We get to where we felt like it's perfected with the flavor, the taste, the smell, everything was on point. We went to have them put it into a can. They ran it through a heat pasteurization. I take a trip to Iceland to go see Annie and Kat to say, hey, here's our final drink. And they open it and the reaction was terrible.
Fish to the dome.
It was awful. And the smell wasn't there. And they're like, Kelly, what do you mean? I was like, guys, 2 days ago when I was in California, it was perfect. So then I have to get on the call with the formulator and I said, we got to figure out what the problem is. Where did we go wrong? What was the changes that we made? And it was when we added heat to the product is when it changed all of the flavors and all of the senses in there, because the collagen coming from the factory in Iceland is odorless and tasteless. Like it literally is. Like, I mean, I could give you, if in a powder you could like even just taste it, it's odorless and, tasteless. But when you added heat to the process with all the other vitamins, it brought it out. So that was a learning process that we had to go figure out and work to figure out how to formulate that. That's probably our biggest key and our biggest secret, is we figured out a way to do it the right way, in a healthy way, to be able to bring that to market. So, so that's kind of where we came from with that. And I think you had asked me earlier kind of the background from a coaching perspective.
Yeah, and kind of, I'm interested in how fitness has helped lead you to this point, and kind of what you've learned through that journey.
So, grew up, I would say, fairly athletic. I'm one of those guys that probably had more potential than I maximized, and that's probably why I'm so adamant about giving other people opportunities. I had a lot of potential. Played a lot of sports growing up, primarily wrestling and football were my primary sports, but also played baseball, played basketball until I realized that I had to pick between wrestling and basketball. And there wasn't really many opportunities for a wrestler and a basketball player. But wrestling and football were definitely my passion. And that's kind of what led me into coaching, is just having some good mentors that I felt like I could look up to these guys that were guiding me. Probably was not the best player for a lot of my coaches, but I think it still taught me the discipline and the drive of what I needed. My father was, one that was, very hard. He coached most of us in youth sports, growing up, and he was very, very disciplined man. He's a man of integrity, and I think he instilled a lot of those values in me. Although I also probably say I was the black sheep in the family and tested those waters a lot more, and it took me a while to grow up. But once I grew up and realized that, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be a coach. I want to be able to give back. I want to be able to help others. There's nothing more exciting to be able to see somebody reach a potential that they never thought that they could be through coaching. I think it's just one of the most fascinating things to be able to see somebody that comes from, and I think you mentioned it earlier, the ones that look like they're not going to succeed, but you bring them up to a level where they can succeed and see the joy and happiness on their face. There's nothing more exciting out there. And so that's where my passion was. And so when it came time to, do the beverage, that's what we wanted to do. Let's give back. Let's go find that joy. I had a guy ask me when I, I'll say semi-retired, thought I was retired. And, he said, what do you want to do in life? He said, what do you want your next step to be? And I said, I want to be able to serve and give back. And I think I found that avenue through a drink. Of the weirdest avenue you could ever imagine is like, how's a drink going to serve and give back? Well, this is what we're doing with the Resilience Fund, and this is what we're doing with communities like Arsenal. We're building communities. We spent a lot of time in Austin, Texas. We spent a lot of time in Denver, Southern Utah. We're looking for areas to be able to serve and to be able to give back. We're doing a really cool event here at Arsenal this Saturday, where we're doing like a high rock simulation. We're going to have a community. I think there's already 140 to 150 people
it's going to be
signed up for it.
It'll be
it's going to be awesome, and we're going to be there to support it and to be able to just build the community. So anywhere that we go that we can build a community, we're in for it. My team, that's the joy of being a founder, is you can surround yourself with people that you want to be with. And to have like-minded people that have the same passion and desire that I have is incredible. So one, you start off with Katrin and Annie, as kind of being like brand founders with the athletic background of both being two-time former CrossFit Games champions. They carry a tremendous impact in the athletic world. My COO, Reed, has a lot of background in the CPG space, has a lot of background with brands, has a lot of background, with selling, companies, but also building companies. Aligns perfectly from an integrity standpoint, from a value standpoint. Jen, who's our formulator, same way. I've known her for like 10 years. She's formulated for a lot of big companies. Was very fortunate to bring her on board. And Jeff, who handles our marketing, very aligned with what we do. Just, he's one that's a realist. He's going to let us know the truth about things, but he also
you have to have that guy.
Yeah,
you have to have that guy.
He keeps us in line and keeps us in check, because sometimes we just get too excited. But like the team represents integrity and values. Our drink represents integrity and values. And I think the community that we're building, the community that we surrounded ourselves with, the community I've been fortunate through Eric Hinman and his group, through Arsenal, through V23, what you guys had represents integrity and value.
Yeah. There's a lot we could unpack. Going back to like the coaching thing you mentioned about having like good mentors, bad mentors, some coaches you didn't align with. I think it's equally as important to know when it comes to leadership, you have to experience both sides. You have to experience, I know I've had mentors of mine that were phenomenal that we didn't see eye to eye, that I learned as much from this is how I don't want to approach my people as I have from the leaders that I've had that I looked up to who were longtime mentors. I think that's critical. And same thing from a coaching perspective. My personal coaching philosophy is very similar to what you're trying to get across with this brand. Is I would rather have a very deep and narrow channel and go. That's what a lot of the executive coaching I do now is. I know where all the bodies are hidden. I still do group coaching. You know what I mean? Because the group coaching aspect keeps me sharp, but it's helping people solve more complex, deeper problems with anything, stress management, nutrition. Their narratives around fitness and what they think a lot of it, believe it or not, comes down to like what they feel they deserve, or they might see you guys. You just did a freaking High Rocks, right?
Yeah.
How many people, and how old are you?
51.
51. There are people who would look at a 51-year-old jacked tan guy and be like, oh, I could never do that. And it's like, we need to find out where that narrative's coming from and get rid of that shit.
Be done with it.
And we need to find out the backstory there, and then we can start creating some changes and reverse engineer so you can do whatever the hell you want. So that's a big part of my message, is this very narrow channel, but this very deep channel. And it sounds like you guys are doing something similar with Dottir.
For sure. Some of the advice that we've gotten, some of the best advice that I've gotten from other brands and from other, founders of companies is go deep. Mm-hmm. Same thing from coaching. You go deep and you build your roots extremely deep, because we could go very broad and we can go very, very shallow, but what's going to happen is it's going to eventually tumble over. Yeah. And it's not going to hold. So, that's our goal, is to dig as deep as possible in the communities, and that people understand the value behind, what they're drinking. And, they're, again, intentional. Intentionality is something, if you're intentional with what you put into your body, that's what we're about.
Yep. So 10 years from now, we hang up this podcast, Dottir does its thing. What story do you want to be telling yourself about Kelly in 10 years, or about this brand, or both?
I think it will be both, because I want the brand to represent who I am. And I think it's all about giving back. I think it will be stories where people can resonate that, I was able to do this because of Dottir, or Dottir built this community, this beverage built this community, and this is what they've done for me, or this is what they've done for my friend, or this is what they've done for my mother. So I think those are the things that I want to be able to look at. Like, I know in this world, everybody wants to define success by money. Money will come and go, but this brand, I want to be known for service, and I want to be known for giving back. And then also I want people to be able to know that it's something that's extremely healthy for you. So 10 years from now, if people are telling stories about what Dottir did for them, or what Dottir did for somebody at their gym, then I'm going to feel like we won.
Excellent. I'm going to jump back for a minute. So you exited your business. Uh-huh. You essentially retired.
Yeah.
And then you bought yourself a job.
Yeah.
So walk me through what that looked like, between going from stressed, overworked, not feeling connected with the family, some associated guilt.
Yeah.
And then now you have this downtime to stop, decompress, think, future vision, and then you go into buying yourself a job. Yeah, walk me, what does that internal narrative, the conversation with the wife, walk me through that.
Well, conversation with the wife was pretty simple. Honey, this is what I want to do. Are you okay if we lose X amount of dollars doing this? As long as we build a community and we're doing it with integrity and passion. And her answer has always been yes. She's extremely, extremely supportive. So she's been on board from day one, been super excited, been super supportive. Here's the thing, I'll say this right now. Let's say this thing does fail. Let's say this thing does not do what it's supposed to do. We're not able to give back. I have a drink I can drink the rest of my life and be extremely happy about. So one way or the other, I've served at least my purpose to be able to have something that I can fulfill and to put into my body every day and feel like I've done that. But yeah, so the conversation was basically, this is what we're going to invest into it. This is what we're going to do to give it a go. And are you okay with it? And the answer was yes. And I like to tell people, I don't like to look at it as a job. It's a passion project.
Sure.
Here's what I get to, like, Monday, I was training with Catherine David's daughter, training with her fiance, who was a NHL hockey player for 14 years, and Cole Sager, who made it to the CrossFit Games for 12, 13 years consecutive. And I'm in a room training with them as part of building a brand, Dottir. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah.
To be able to go and train with a Rich Ryan, or to be able to go train with some elite athletes that are in the high rock space, or other fitness spaces, to do that stuff, that's pretty fun. And then also to do it with a brand, it's even funner. So I like to say it's a passion project that I'm pursuing. I want to be able to give my team opportunities. I'd love to be able to give my team financial opportunities to be able to make financial changes for them in the future. But at the end of the day, for me, it's a passion project that I'm just extremely passionate about, that I want to build a community and have fun doing.
Yeah, but even taking something from vision through the process to creation, and now, like, you already won.
Yeah.
You've already had an impact, even just with and not to just blow you up, but just taking something, because everybody, and the friends I have that own consumer brands, you go to Sprouts, you go to Whole Foods, you go to the grocery store, you see there's no space in any of the aisles, in any of the shelves. And so to be able to take something, pull that from vision into reality, like, that's already just a massive win.
Yeah.
So where can people find this? Where are you guys in the space? Where are you going in the space?
Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned retail. One of the things that I'm intentionally doing is staying away from retail so we can enjoy it. Because I think sometimes we get into retail, we lose our focus. And that's the last thing that I want to do. I don't want to lose our focus on the brand, and then also the deep roots that we're building. So we are primarily D2C, direct to consumer, online. So you can order it on drinkdottir.com. Also, we are set up in gyms. We have drinks here at Arsenal. We're set up in many gyms in different cities, and we're looking to expand from a wholesale standpoint into gyms, and also into like niche places, niche markets. We're in like some meat markets. We're in some very healthy food, type places that we're looking for, because it's a drink that you have to understand the value of the drink. If you're walking into a C store to get a beverage and get an energy drink, I'm probably not your drink that you want.
Sure.
Probably the drink you need, but it's not the drink that you're probably going to want. Right. And so that's why we're being very intentional with our growth, is looking to partner with the right partners, the right communities that understand, health and fitness, or at least care about their overall health. Well, and it's been extremely rewarding to be able to get a message from a 65-year-old man who primarily is just a walker, but has said, I've never felt better than drinking your drink. My knees don't hurt, my elbows don't hurt, I'm able to sleep at night. And it's got to be the collagen, and those are the things that we appreciate. Those are the things that's why we created this company. And so when you feel, when you mention that, hey, you think I've already won, I appreciate that, because I feel like we've already won with the team, the product that we have. I feel like we're winners, and we will bring a lot of joy and happiness into the market. But I think it's an incredible product.
I love it.
Yeah.
One of the last things I want to touch on, and this is something I'm a personal fan of, again, creeping your Instagram, creeping the Dottir page. You mentioned the term resilience.
Yeah.
And resilience has a little special meaning to me, I can go into or not. But what does resilience mean to you, as far as whether it's leadership, fatherhood, I know you have children, being a husband, bringing a consumer brand to market. How do you view resilience, and what does it mean to you?
I think that you have to look at resilience as giving your all, like regardless of the circumstances. I think at the end of the day, it's about, are you able to give it your all without excuses and just go? there again, we talked earlier a little bit about success. How do we define success? And I said that you can't always define it by wins and losses, but you can define it by what you give and what you put into it. So if I was coaching and you practiced as hard as you could, you gave it your all, you showed up prepared and ready to go, you've won and you've been resilient already. So like overcoming certain circumstances, overcoming environments, overcoming challenges that maybe you weren't born with the best talent. But to be able to give it your all through discipline and hard work, I think is, to me, has a lot to do with resilience.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, if you do what you know you need to do, you give it your all. I have a concept, it's none spared. It's actually the only tattoo that I have that has any meaning. It's Nemini Parco. And don't need to go into the detail, but essentially the direct translation is none spared. And the way I interpreted that is, if I give 100% of my ability, my time, my attention, and my resources to a project, say it doesn't go well, I can still retain my honor and my conscience in that. Right. But you don't want to put on the costume of doing something well or all in when you're not. You're distracted. You're delegating authority and responsibility to other people, because then regardless of the outcome, you're not going to feel it becomes difficult to lose how would I say it? It's easier for me to retain my conscience and my honor if I give something my all and it doesn't work out. Even if this doesn't work out, what have you learned through it? Yeah. Right. So that's really where you detach the outcome from the actual process. And I think if you learn to give 100% of your resources, your time, your attention to a specific process, even if it doesn't work out, it's what you learn in that process of actually trying to do the thing. That's when it comes to success or failure. You can't just measure it on outcomes alone.
And I think, compromising, like you can't compromise your beliefs and take shortcuts. Yeah. So I'm sure with your background in fitness, I don't know if you know Ben Pekulski. Mm-hmm. So Ben's a good buddy of mine. And one of the things that working with Ben is that he, we've mentioned the word intentional with purpose, is to be intentional with purpose in all things that you do. So whether it's with your family, whether it's in your business, whether it's in the gym, but like whether it's even at church. There's times where I've sat in church in previous career and I'm sitting on my phone answering emails instead of being intentional with where I'm at in the moment. Yeah. With my kids sitting at dinner and I'm looking at my phone trying to answer emails, or 9 o'clock at night, my wife's putting the kids to bed and I'm in there on the computer. Like being intentional in the moment, I think is really, really big with what we should be doing as humans. It's okay to be all in, but be all in with what you're supposed to be in that moment.
Yeah, we spend so much time worrying about tomorrow, having the conversations that will never come. Most of the bad things that happen to us happen up here and they don't happen in reality. But if you focus 100% of your resources on the moment, your tomorrows just kind of begin to take care of themselves. Yeah. And it's funny, once you get into that process,
it just works.
I fall into the same, I don't try to talk as somebody who's overcome this stuff, but I battle it the same as anybody else. But it's just every time something happens, I remind myself that if I just focus on now, tomorrow will end up taking care of itself.
It's a work in progress. Yeah, I don't think, I think one of the things is people ask me a lot about who is this drink for and when should you drink the drink? Mm-hmm. My answer was always, it's for everyone and you should drink it all the time. And the one thing you mentioned earlier, which I thought was really funny, is, you learned 6 o'clock at night is probably not the right time with the caffeine. Yeah. And so that's why we were very intentional of the next thing is to be able to release the caffeine-free version. Is so we have people that says, man, I really love your drink, but I really don't want the caffeine. Mm-hmm. Or for me, selfishly, I want the drink at dinner time. I really don't want to have 6:30. I don't want to have the caffeine, although there's probably been plenty of nights that I've had drinking the caffeine. I metabolize caffeine a little bit different is like what I like to tell people, but maybe not. But that's why there again, it's being intentional. Mm-hmm. We're listening to what people say and we're coming out with a caffeine-free version to give people that opportunity that they can choose to have the caffeine or they cannot have the caffeine, but they still get the same benefit of the collagen. They can still have the same benefit of all the vitamin stack. Whether they want the clarity and focus of the caffeine or not, that's your choice. Sure. But it's really listening to the audience and listening to what people want is what we're want to do, and so that's part of the growth.
Yeah, I love it. So we have the Arsenal Dóttir throwdown tomorrow
Yep.
here in Denver. And the partnership, you guys, you spoke to this earlier. I just want to make sure I have it right. You guys are actually taking 2 of our female athletes.
Correct.
And paying for 6 months of their gym membership, personal training.
They're going to do blood work. They're going to do online boarding. They're going to do panel work. We're going to do, before and after. They're going to do the online or the in-house coaching 3 times a week. And then they'll also, be working with them on the fitness side or the meal side, of the nutrition side. So very excited to see, what happens there and giving, some women some opportunities.
That's so cool.
Afford. Yeah.
That's so cool. What is the best piece of advice? I actually love this question, and every time I'm asked, I totally freeze up. But what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Ooh. I would say it's hard to answer what I've ever received. I'll say one piece of advice that I think is extremely important that I've tried to live by is defining your why. Because I think once you define your why, you'll understand your purpose and you'll understand where you're going. And that sets the groundstone for everything that you do. So if you are grounded in your why, I think that leads to everything else. So there's a lot of times that, hey, I might not want to train. I might not want to go do these things, but you know what? I've defined, who I want to be and why I want to be that. And sometimes it's not it's not even a question. You just go do it. So for me, it's defining that why and living by that why. And then sometimes you even have to reevaluate that why.
That was going to be my next question, because I think that so many times when we run into these roadblocks and we get frustrated and we keep ramming our head into the door, we're not getting results, or we're not feeling good, or we're hesitating to pick up the phone, or we're hesitating to respond to that email. I think usually it's time to reevaluate that why. So, because when you know your why, everything's effortless. It becomes a passion project.
That's right.
So how often, or what signs do you have when you feel you need to audit, do the internal audit and find that why? And even when it went from entrepreneurship to now owning a brand, that why changes.
I think progress. So once I become, stagnant in my movement as an individual, then it's really time to me to reevaluate that why. So I'll give an example. Was working with a coaching staff, had tremendous success, really, really great coaching staff, but as an individual, I was not progressing. I felt at that time it was time for me to reevaluate what do I need to be doing. And that led to me changing a job to go look for another job. There again, wins and losses were one thing, but I felt like I was stagnant as an individual. I was not progressing. And so it led me to saying, okay, I got to go redefine that. So I think once we get complacent, once we get where there's no growth there, I think it's time to us to reevaluate whether are we staying within our why, or do we need to change our why to give us that growth pattern so we can continue to succeed? I think movement is key. So whether we can talk about movement as activity, but I think we also talk about movement as mental.
Sure.
I think we can talk about it, physical. We can talk about it health-wise. I think movement is key because you're at least progressing forward in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, what I found is when my routine becomes routine, it's time to change it up. Because I think you hear all this discussion around morning routine, evening routine, this. To me, routine and intentionality do not go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I'll get into a routine because there are new habits I want to develop, new skills I want to develop. But once you get the message, hang up the phone.
Yeah.
And so many times we just stay in that routine. You're like, I have no idea why I'm spending 90 minutes in the morning doing my podcast and this. Because you're essentially, it's like handing your intentionality and your results off to like AI. You're like, hands off, this is already going. So that's my internal audit. As soon as I'm sitting there at 4 something in the morning and I'm trying to podcast or do the thing and I'm no longer paying attention to it, I'm distraction on my phone, it's like, okay, bitch, you need to re-audit this whole thing, because maybe this time could now be spent doing something else, because I got this done, cool. So that's when I internally audit is like, okay, I'm handing this off, it's no longer intentional, so time to control, delete, and start.
And I'll do that like with wearables. I think like with wearable devices, which I noticed you have one on, like I'll wear them for a while, and then once I get like where I'm either too dependent on the wearable, and I'm like, oh shoot, I slept really bad last night, and it's telling me I slept bad, then you know what, my day's not very good. But then sometimes I just like not wearing anything right now, and it's just time for me to say, hey, I'm just going to find myself, and then probably, after my next race, I'll probably put it back on for a couple, weeks and then get back into it. But it's more of that, I think we can get so complacent in our routines that sometimes it is good to change up. I mean, when you program somebody's workout, you're not doing the same workout for, 52 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
You're making changes. So every, 4 to 6 weeks, you're making changes. And like one of the worst things is like, I hate deload weeks because I feel like I'm missing something. I hate zone 2 training, which in order for me to be better in high rocks and to do well, like, I've qualified for the Worlds in June, and, we have goals to be able to do certain things, but I hate zone 2 training. It's boring to me.
Yeah.
But those are things I have to do. Like I have to define, like that's my why is to get better. I've got to go do those things.
Yeah.
And so there are patterns that we have to follow that whether we like them or not, sometimes we just have to do it.
Yeah, the wearables thing's always weird with me because the wearable's a tool.
Yeah.
It's not the master. And I never want to be a slave to the tool. The tool works for me. I don't work for the tool, right? And so where I know you get people into the Whoop and the Garmin and all this, they're like, no, I can't do X, Y, Z because the numbers show this. It's like, no, get up and do what the fuck you said you were going to do.
Right, yeah.
And there's nothing until you learn how to do that, there's nothing to even optimize. There's no point to even have it yet.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that you pointed that out because so many people get obsessed over the tool. It's like when I do a lot of my running, I try to do 1 day a week where I don't look at my watch.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be running and you're going to be training, you actually have to enjoy it. And so if I'm out, I go to a really pretty place and I'm not looking at my watch. Because if I'm looking at my watch every 30 seconds, it's constantly giving me feedback and telling me how I'm doing rather than actually enjoying the run. And usually when I'm not looking at my watch, I have better runs, I'm faster, my split times are down, and they're more enjoyable. Because I'm not allowing the tool to dictate how I feel about myself. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Kelly Meredith, appreciate you having me on the show, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Beau.
Take care.
Yeah.